They're getting some breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
For Nancy Guthrie, she's now been missing well over a
bombshell to Tucson and the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. Has a guy been?
The back door was not broken. It was not forced. It was propped open deliberately, and that single detail has become the center of gravity for this entire investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. When investigators first arrived at the home, there were no tool marks on the lock. No scratched frame, no shattered glass, no pry damage on the door jamb. Everything that should have shown a violent forced entry was absent. And yet Nancy was gone. The question that has haunted this case from the very beginning is not how someone got in, it's how they knew exactly how to get in without leaving any trace that they had forced their way inside at all. The answer that forensic analysts keep returning to is access. Prior access. Someone who had already been inside that home and had time to study the layout, identify the exits, and plan their return before Nancy ever knew anything was wrong. And when you start pulling that thread, you arrive at the same category of person every single time. A service worker. Someone with a work order, a uniform, a legitimate reason to knock on that door and be let inside. The electrician working on the electrical panel is the name that surfaces most consistently. It was not a simple job. Replacing an electrical panel is a multi-day project. It requires multiple visits, multiple work orders, access to areas of the home that most people never enter. That worker would have known which doors led where. Which exits were visible from the street and which were not. How the home was laid out from room to room. And crucially, which door could be propped open from the inside without being noticed from outside. That detail about the propped door is what separates a crime of opportunity from a crime of planning. You do not prop a door on impulse. You prop a door because you have already decided you are coming back, and you want that re-entry to be silent. No knocking, no noise, no forced entry. You just walk back in through a door you left open on purpose. HVAC workers had also been at the property. Landscapers. Pool technicians. Delivery drivers. Each of them had passed through the property. Each of them had a reason to be there. Each of them had seen the interior and the exterior. And now, according to sources close to the investigation, every one of those individuals is being looked at. Work orders are being pulled. Dates and times are being cross-referenced. The FBI is mapping each service call against the timeline of surveillance activity that was captured on the front door camera in the days before Nancy vanished. A forensic DNA analyst who has spent 25 years working cases said directly that she has encountered this pattern before. A construction worker, an electrician, a contractor, someone who came in through the front door with permission and left through the back door with a plan. She has seen it multiple times across her career. The familiarity with the layout, the knowledge of entry points, the absence of forced entry. These are not coincidences. They are the forensic signature of someone who was already comfortable inside that space. Collecting DNA from each of those workers is not complicated. A buccal swab. It takes seconds. A long swab rubbed against the inside of the cheek, and the resulting profile can be compared directly against the unknown DNA that the FBI has confirmed was found inside Nancy Guthrie's bedroom. That DNA belongs to someone. And if that someone's profile appears in any work order connected to that home or the surrounding neighborhood, the identification happens immediately. The object used to prop the door also matters. Whatever it was, whether a rock, a piece of wood, something pulled from the yard, it was touched. It was handled. It sat against a door frame that was also touched and handled. The doorknob, the jamb, the threshold, every surface in that entry corridor is a potential source of biological material. And a forensics professor who has worked more than 10,000 investigations said plainly that evidence which was not collected during the initial crime scene sweep may still be present. That assessment is deeply significant. The crime scene was released within days. A black doormat on the front porch was photographed by media after the scene was released to the public. Whether that mat was collected, whether it was examined for blood transfer, whether an interior rug just inside the front door was processed, none of that has been publicly confirmed. And if those surfaces were not collected, and if the evidence is still sitting there, then the chain of custody on potentially critical material has been sitting unprotected for weeks. The blood evidence on the front porch has been analyzed extensively. Large drops consistent with gravitational bleeding. Smaller satellite droplets. Ring-shaped patterns with hollow centers, a specific signature created when blood passes through the respiratory system before being expelled. That pattern, according to profilers, is consistent with Nancy being struck near the front door, going down, and coughing blood before being moved from the home. The entry, though, was through the back. And the back door is where the planning became execution. Savannah Guthrie confirmed publicly that the doors in the home were found propped open. Plural. That detail expands the forensic footprint considerably. Multiple doors. Multiple surfaces. Multiple contact points across the home where biological material could have been deposited during the time the suspect was inside. The vehicle investigation is running parallel. Investigators have narrowed focus to a gray or silver SUV or pickup truck. A gray Range Rover was towed from a restaurant parking lot approximately 2 miles from Nancy's home in the early days of the investigation. Surveillance footage at a nearby gas station captured a second vehicle of interest. If Nancy was bleeding when she was removed from the home, her blood would be in that vehicle. And the suspect's own DNA, shed constantly through touch, through breath, through speaking, would also be present on every surface they contacted during that drive. Steering wheel, gear shift, door handles, window controls. A forensic analyst described it as potentially the most significant piece of evidence still unlocated. The Ozark Trail brand has appeared repeatedly across items linked to the suspect. The backpack seen in surveillance footage is an Ozark Trail product sold exclusively through Walmart. Analysis of the footwear visible in enhanced video frames suggests the shoes may also be Ozark Trail low hiker boots, a matching rubber toe profile, a distinctive heel stripe, a silhouette that aligns with what enhancement technology has been able to isolate. If confirmed, a single brand across multiple items creates a purchasing profile. Walmart's point-of-sale records can trace a transaction to a specific store, a specific date, and potentially to a specific payment method. The forensic principle involved is called individualization, tying physical items to a single person through the unique wear patterns that develop over time from how that person walks, how their weight distributes across the sole, whether they favor the heel or the toe. Those patterns become as individually identifying as a fingerprint. The FBI's investigation has also expanded into satellite imaging. Aerial and infrared technology has been deployed in past cases to fill gaps that ground-level evidence could not. The limiting factor is timing and cloud cover. But investigators working this case have already learned a lesson about dismissing potential evidence too quickly. The front door camera footage was initially believed to be lost. Then the FBI discovered that Google had retained the images on cloud servers. Evidence that was assumed not to exist turned out to exist. The pattern of this investigation has been consistent. Every assumption about what is unavailable has eventually been tested, and the tests keep returning results. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Her back door was propped open. The workers who had been inside her home are being interviewed and swabbed. A vehicle remains unidentified. And somewhere in the evidence that may or may not have been collected, on a door jamb, on a mat, on an object placed against a frame, there may be the biological material that gives investigators a name. If you have information, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit tips at tips.fbi.gov. The reward currently exceeds $1.2 million. A conviction is not required.